Hello, I'm a nerd named Ryan. Let's talk about Empire of Death, the final episode of Doctor Who Season 1, or Series 14 if you'd prefer. I have pretty mixed feelings on this episode overall. I'd say more positive than negative, but mixed feelings. There will be some spoilers throughout this video. Let's get into it. So the first thing I really liked in this episode was Sutekh. Of course, Sutekh appeared as the sort of cliffhanger. The reveal of Sutekh was the cliffhanger for the last episode. And yeah, I just really like Sutekh. I think he's a good character from Pyramids of Mars, which is a great story. And I really like what they did with him here. I like his redesign. I think this new kind of look for Sutekh, where he's this kind of giant, like, dog monster, is really, really cool. Obviously, it's all CGI. But it's really well done. It's quite well done CGI. I really like the look of him. I actually really like the shot of him kind of draped around the TARDIS, like holding the TARDIS. That's a really cool idea. I don't quite like how he got control of the TARDIS, which we'll get into, but yeah, I think the look of him kind of, you know, wrapped around the TARDIS is a really cool visual, a really cool idea. And also, I love the fact that we got the original actor for Sutekh, Gabriel Wolf, back to do the voice. Gabriel Wolf is like in his 90s now. I think they say he's something like 91, but he is still fantastic as Sutekh. His voice is still so good. He has this real kind of menace to his voice that I think really worked brilliantly. Of course, he was great in Pyramids of Mars as well. And he actually has been in modern Doctor Who before. He voiced the Beast in the Satan Pit two-parter. Back in Series 2. But yeah, Gabriel Wolf was great. There was some fantastic dialogue for Sutekh as well. There's a bit where Sutekh is kind of taunting the Doctor because he now has control of the TARDIS. And he tells the Doctor, "It will sit on the mantle of my Empire of Death." And it's such... that was such a good line. And Gabriel Wolf's delivery was just so good. It was just like dripping in this kind of menace. And I'm like, oh, you're so cool, Sutekh. I love you. The opening act of this was really good as well. Kind of the opening few minutes where we kind of just see the destruction that Sutekh brings about with his dust of death. He just immediately disintegrates everybody in unit. They're all just turned to like sand and they just disintegrate. All of London gets kind of engulfed by this dust of death. We see Mel and the Doctor on a moped flying through London. It might be a motorbike, but I think it's a moped. But they're like flying through London, and the Doctor's like, "Hurry up!" And she's like, "I'm going as fast as I can." Oh, the 15th Doctor and Mel were great. Bonnie Langford's fantastic in this episode. I really like her. But yeah, those two are just racing across London, and you see just the dust just devouring everything and just destroying stuff. That was a really cool visual. That was a really cool way to start the episode off, just with this utter destruction and death and carnage. Really liked that a lot. Mel and the Doctor then make their way back to Unit HQ, where of course everyone has been turned to dust, with the exception of one guard and Ruby, because they're still in the time window that was established in the last episode. And the Doctor goes into the time window and tells Ruby to remember the TARDIS. And so the TARDIS in the time window kind of flickers to life, and they can go inside and get away from Sutekh and his path of destruction in the Remember TARDIS from Tales of the TARDIS, which I loved seeing that. It's so cool. Like, I love how just cluttered and small it is. Like, you know, you look at the normal TARDIS and it's just that kind of this vast, impressive, you know, sci-fi, you know, beautiful spaceship, and then you go in the memory TARDIS and it's like a cupboard full of shit, and I kind of love it. It's really good. Everything in there is just broken. They have to sort of hold down all these different levers at once in order to fly away from the Earth, and in order to kind of control the memory TARDIS. One of the things, by the way, that they used to tie down all the levers is the Fourth Doctor's scarf, and I loved seeing the Fourth Doctor's scarf. This is why I love the memory TARDIS. Like, as someone who is a sucker for kind of Doctor Who nostalgia and kind of old Doctor Who props, I loved seeing all the Doctor Who stuff in there. The 13th Doctor's console, there's a bit of that in there. There's I think there's the Cyberman head that Matt Smith used to talk to, you know, handles. I think that was in there somewhere. There's a bit where Mel sees the 6th Doctor's coat, his outfit, and has a nice little sweet moment there. So yeah, big fan of the Remember TARDIS. Really liked that. One thing I did like, though, is the fact that in the memory TARDIS they tie in 73 yards. Of course, 73 yards at the end that episode kind of retcons itself at the end with the twist. So the events didn't actually happen. But I do like how when they're in the memory TARDIS, the memory TARDIS kind of pulls the memories out of somewhere. Like it's as if to suggest that even though the events never really happened because they retcon themselves, Ruby still has this kind of vague memory of them somewhere in her subconscious that the memory TARDIS pulls out, because the memory TARDIS is tied to Ruby because she remembers it in the time window. So it's kind of her memories that links to it. So I like that we kind of have the 73 yards connection, and how Ruby doesn't even really understand it herself. Like the Doctor's explaining the perception filter of the TARDIS, and he says, yeah, it projects about 66 metres away. And she just goes, 73 yards. And he goes, yeah, how did you know it was 73 yards? And he went, I don't know, but I just do. Like, I like that. I like that they kind of subtly hint at it. Like, okay, maybe she does remember vaguely this alternative timeline of 73 yards, because they kind of go through the idea of, you know, time is very fluid in Doctor Who, and I like that they've tied that into the idea of memory being fluid as well. So, really liked that. Big fan of that. I also really like how they defeat Sutekh in the end. You know, you've got in the memory TARDIS, they find various like bits that they can use. Like they find this like I forget how they describe it, but it's basically like magic sci-fi rope. Basically, they find the anti-gravity gloves from Church on Ruby Road, or the anti-mavity gloves. I still don't know how I feel about the whole mavity thing being a running thing. And the Doctor also finds a whistle, and then when they find Sutekh, They kind of trick him. They use Ruby as a distraction to kind of trick him, and then the Doctor calls the TARDIS to him with the whistle. He like blows the whistle, and the TARDIS that's under Sutekh's control wakes up, and like Harriet Arbinger's in there like controlling it, and the TARDIS like wakes up and it just blasts her out. Just like it basically just goes fuck off, and she just goes, and then the TARDIS flies out of the grasp of Sutekh, gets to the other end of the thing near the Doctor. They clip the rope to like he's got like a dog head, and they clip the rope to his collar and pull him in with the anti-gravity gloves, clip him to the TARDIS and drag him through the time vortex. You know, Sutekh has destroyed all these worlds using the TARDIS, and so the Doctor kind of uses the TARDIS to undo it. He drags him back through the time stream, and, you know, it kind of reverses everything, and everyone who was turned to dust comes back to life, which is a very Avengers Endgame thing. I'm not stupid, Russell. I see what you did there with your Marvel stuff. It's basically Endgame. Everyone just comes back from being turned to dust. And, you know, the Doctor is great in this scene. Like, Ncuti Gatwa has been really good as the Doctor throughout the series, but in this episode especially, I think he's really, really good. Like, again, we'll come back to why Sutekh can control the TARDIS and why I have some issues with that, but basically the Sutekh being able to control the TARDIS means that every world the Doctor's visited, he has been able to destroy. Sutekh has been able to destroy. And the Doctor blames himself for that. So there's a scene earlier where he's in the memory TARDIS blaming himself, looking at this dead, desolate universe, and he just screams, and it's just this agonizing, heartbreaking scream of "this is my fault," and it's such a great performance from him. And in this scene where they're defeating Sutekh, where they're dragging him back through the time stream, he's, you know, monologuing at Sutekh, and he's, you know, he's doing it's a really great performance from Ncuti Gatwa. He has a great line as well where he says, "What happens when you bring death to death? You get life." And I'm like, oh, that's so good. And his delivery was great. And then once everything is undone, once they've gone through the time stream enough to undo all the damage Sutekh's done, they close the TARDIS doors, the rope thing breaks, and Sutekh falls into the time stream and is just destroyed. He's just gone. So, really interesting way of beating Sutekh. A really fun, action-packed scene. Really, really enjoyed that a lot. So yeah, I think it had a lot of moments that I kind of expect from a series finale. You know, it had a lot of the action, a lot of the big kind of stakes, a lot of the dramatic moments. There's a really cool scene where the Doctor visits a woman on one of the dead planets, like one of the few survivors there, and has a really nice chat with her. And that was a really nice scene as well, because that, again, was a great performance from Ncuti, but a much more subtle one than what he gives in the, in the scene where he's, like, yelling at Sutekh while defeating him. But yeah, there's a lot of really good moments here, but there's a couple of things about this episode that kind of don't sit well with me, that I don't really like. The first one is how Sutekh is able to control the TARDIS, and how Sutekh kind of comes back to life, basically. How Sutekh didn't die at the end of Pyramids of Mars. Basically, the Doctor at the end of Pyramids of Mars sends Sutekh through the time stream to the end of his life. So he dies of old age before he can escape the time vortex. Or so we think, because it turns out what actually happened is Sutekh grabbed onto the TARDIS as it was leaving, and he's just been hanging onto the TARDIS since then. So every story in Doctor Who, since Pyramids of Mars to Empire of Death, has had Sutekh just hanging onto the TARDIS. Not just the TV stories, but all the audio stories that feature any Doctors between 4 and 15, any novels that feature them, any spin-off media, Sutekh's just been hanging out on the TARDIS, right? Now, even for Doctor Who, that is a bit far-fetched for me. I didn't think that was a very good explanation. Like, the Doctor hasn't noticed, Sutekh hasn't done anything until now, for some reason, but also, we know from the show, because it's both subtly hinted at and often heavily implied, that the TARDIS itself has some level of sentience, or at least a sentient connection to the Doctor. I mean, it has been sentient in the past, in the Matt Smith episode, The Doctor's Wife, right? And there's other times where, like, say, in the Ghost Monument, where it appears for the 13th Doctor for the first time, she says, "Oh, I lost my key, sorry," and it just opens for her, because, you know, she's there, so the Doctor and the TARDIS have this kind of almost sentient, kind of almost symbiotic relationship with each other. And I'm to believe that the TARDIS at no point noticed that Sutekh was hanging onto it or was stowing away on it and didn't find some way to alert the Doctor. Even for Doctor Who, I find that a bit far-fetched, so I don't really like that particular explanation. Yeah, that didn't really sit well with me. The other thing that I have kind of mixed feelings on is the reveal of Ruby's mum, because that's the other thing. We've been building the whole series around this mystery of who is Ruby Sunday's mum. You know, how did... We've been building up this whole mystery throughout the series of who's Ruby's mum, you know, why does it always snow when Ruby's there, all these other kind of little things that have happened, right? And it turns out Ruby's mum is just an ordinary person. She's just a regular woman. She got pregnant at 15, and she just left Ruby at a church. And she wasn't actually... We thought she was pointing at the Doctor, because the Doctor gets there on that day to, you know, defeat the goblins in the church on Ruby Road. But she was actually not pointing at the Doctor. She was pointing at the sign that said Ruby Road, so she named Ruby herself, right? And listen... I can sort of understand why they kind of went for the idea of it being this kind of anticlimax, because the episode has these themes of, you know, time being memories and memories being important, and the Doctor even says, you know, she's important because you made her important, because you made her important in your mind. You built up this legend around her. That's what makes her so important, which... I get that, that's fine, and I don't even really mind it being this kind of anticlimax. I kind of like the idea that, oh no, Ruby's just a normal person, her mum is just a normal person. However, there are things that weren't explained about that story arc and about this story that I don't... Like, why can't Sutekh see her? Right, because the whole reason Sutekh doesn't kill the Doctor and Ruby is because he wants to know what the mystery of Ruby's mum is, because he can't see who Ruby's mum is, right? But she's a normal person, so why can't he see her? I don't feel like they give this explanation of, oh, she's important because you made her important in your memory, and that's supposed to explain everything, but I'm like, I don't buy that that's the reason Sutekh can't see her and is obsessed with seeing her, because that's how they distract him long enough to, you know, get him tethered to the TARDIS and pull him through the time stream. Is, you know, Ruby, you know, teases him, says, "I'll tell you my mum's name," and then she breaks the screen that it's on, right? Because she did a DNA test, it's on screen, she breaks the screen. But, like, I don't buy the fact that the reason Sutekh can't see her is because Ruby's built her up in her memory, because she's just like a normal woman. And also there are other things in the story arc that don't make sense if she's a normal woman. Like, why is it... Like, what's with the fucking snow? Why is it snowing? Tell me what the snow is, Russell. Are we going to get an explanation for that next season? I don't know, but it's driving me mad. Tell me what the snow is. So yeah, the actual reveal itself, I have mixed feelings on. It is a bit of an anticlimax, but it's meant to be an anticlimax. But I feel like that being the reason that. But I feel like Sutekh not being able to see Ruby's mum, despite the fact Ruby's mum is just an ordinary woman, because Ruby's built her up in her memory, that feels like a cop-out to me as an ending. I don't know, that just didn't sit well with me. Like, I'm like, the thing with Sutekh doesn't make sense. That feels like that doesn't make much sense to me. I understand why some people are going to really like it, and honestly, I kind of, again, I get what they were going for with making her just an ordinary woman, and I do kind of like the fact that when they reunite, because they reunite at the end of the episode, I do kind of like the fact that Ruby's adopted family have, no ill will or no bad blood towards her biological mum. They just, welcome her into their family. That's really nice, and that's something that is very in character for Cherry and Carl the Sunday. Those two characters are great, and I love them, and they're wonderful. So I kind of like that nice, wholesome ending. Russell T Davies likes to do these kind of sappy endings to his series finale, likes to do these kind of sappy endings from time to time, very kind of soap opera-esque. I don't usually like them. This one was relatively well done. But yeah, I think that the whole mystery, while I get what it's going for, I don't think it worked necessarily for me in a way that I wanted it to pay off certain stories. So yeah, while I kind of respect the fact that they went for this rather kind of anticlimactic ending and went, well, yeah, we've built, and they tied it into the themes of the episode around memory and time, and how memories create time and time creates memories, and memories also kind of create legends and stuff like that. I liked how they tied it into the themes, but it didn't really, I don't think it worked brilliantly for me personally. All the stuff with Sutekh worked pretty well, but then when we kind of explained who Ruby's mum is, and that didn't work for me personally. But I did really like the last scene where we have Ruby, she's reunited with her birth mum, and her birth mother and her, adopted family have met, and they're all getting on very nicely. We have a scene with Ruby in the TARDIS. She's chatting with the Doctor, and it's discovered they've found her biological father as well, and they're going to go off and meet him. And so the Doctor and Ruby kind of say goodbye. They have this big emotional scene where they say goodbye. And I like the acting in the scene, and I think it's a well-written scene. I think Ncuti and Millie are great in the scene. It's a really nice, tender moment between them. And it's great. The issue I have with it, and it's not really even an issue with the show itself, it's with the marketing and the promotion of the show. We already know Millie Gibson's coming back. She's already confirmed for season 2. So, they're having this big emotional goodbye, and she says, will I ever see you again, Doctor? And I'm like, you're coming back next year. We don't really have that long to wait for you to come back. I don't think she'll end up being in the Christmas special. I feel like the Christmas special is going to be like a one-time companion, just the Doctor with a one-off companion. Especially considering it's written by Stephen Moffat, I feel like introducing the new companion is going to be something Russell T Davies wants to handle himself. And I know we are getting a new companion next series, but we are still getting Ruby back as well. So I think, knowing in advance that Millie Gibson is going to be back in season 2 does slightly weaken that final scene, but the last scene is still really, really good with the Doctor and Ruby. It's well played and it's emotional. And we do continue with one other mystery, which is, of course, Mrs. Flood, who, much like she did at the end of The Church on Ruby Road, she breaks the fourth wall and drops this kind of cliffhanger and this kind of mystery box, and who is she? I think that's done really well as well. So, looking forward to seeing where they go with that, because, again, they've been teasing that throughout the season as well, but I kind of knew they weren't going to pay off Mrs. Flood this series, because they'd already set up all the stuff with Ruby's mum and with He Who Waits and with Susan Twist, so I'm like, they're probably going to wait, they're probably going to hold off one of these until the next series, and it's probably going to be Mrs. Flood because she's been less prominently featured. But yeah, looking forward to seeing where they go with that. Really looking forward to seeing what they do with the Christmas special. We got no kind of hints as to what that's going to be at all. All we really know is that it's written by Stephen Moffat, and it's called Joy to the World, and it's got that actress whose name I can't remember, but I really like. She's in Derry Girls, I think. I really like her as an actress, I just can't remember her name right now. I'll put it on the thing. She's going to be really good. I'm so happy that she's going to be in that. But yeah, looking forward to the Christmas episode. This one, I think, was an okay series finale. The stuff that worked in it really, really worked. Again, the memory TARDIS, Sutekh, the way they defeated Sutekh I thought was really good. Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson were fantastic. Bonnie Langford was great as well. Also, I really like Ruby's line where she's going to show Sutekh the name of her mum on the screen, and then she drops the screen and she calls him, and she just looks at him and says, "You great big god of nothing." I love that line. That was a really good line and really well delivered by Millie. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. Liked the episode overall, but those few little things that I think feel a bit far-fetched for me, or don't make sense to me, they kind of drag it down a little bit. I don't think it's one of the best series finales. I still think things like World Enough and Time and The Doctor Falls and the Pandorica Opens and The Big Bang and what's the other one? And The Stolen Earth and Journey's End. I think these are kind of your big kind of great epic series finales. But yeah, it's a pretty middling series finale. I'd say it's on the kind of, if I ranked all the series finales, this would be in the upper half, but it wouldn't be like really, really top tier. So yeah, that's all the rambling that I have to do about this particular episode. This season overall has been pretty good. I've enjoyed it a lot. I will probably do a ranking video at some point on this YouTube channel, so stick around for that, I guess. If you want to see the rest of the reviews I've done for this series, I made a playlist with all of them in. I'll leave a link to that. Yeah, I also reviewed Pyramids of Mars recently. I'll leave a link to that as well. Yeah, let me know what you thought of Empire of Death, and also what you thought of Season 1/Series 14/Season 40 overall. Thanks for watching. That's all I've got for you. See you when I see you. Bye.